Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay, I don't know what the issue.
Okay, Shalom Aleichem. To all those that will be joining later or at some other time, just want to make sure that we're okay. It's clear. Okay, good. So we're just going to spend some time in the sugya today in Daf Yud Tes and Shabbos. We have the Marmakomos. Short sugya, but a lot there. Tanarabanan, Daf Yud Tes Amud Aleph on the top. And Shabbos, Nosnin Azonis Lefim. Where are we here? Sorry, I'm at the wrong place. Tanarabanan, Lo Yaskir Adam, Kalev Lenachri Be'erev Shabbos, Badala Vehe Mutter. So I'm not allowed to rent out my kalim to a goy on Erev Shabbos, but on Wednesday or Thursday it's okay. Kiyotzaboy and Mishalchin Igrois Yad Nachi Erev Shabbos Dal V'Hei Mutter. Also, I can't give him a letter on Erev Shabbos. I can give it to him on Wednesday or Thursday, which in Amrulav al Rosia Kohen, Amrulav al Rosia Chassid Shla Nimtzak Sav Yad Yadoi Yad Nachim Olam. He never sent his in a Geras for a goy, so it shouldn't come to a issue of taking on Shabbos. So we're not going to go into Igros now because that's the next sugya and that's going to be the next simon as well. We're going to focus just on the first part of the brisa that it says not to rent out your kalim to a nachri Erev Shabbos. So the shaila is, what's the difference between Erev Shabbos and Dala V'Hei? If it's a problem at all, then it should be a problem any day. And number two, what kind of kalim are we talking about? So what's the issue over here? What is the problem? What's the problem with renting your kalim Erev Shabbos? If it's clear that you're doing it on Erev Shabbos, you're not doing anything on Shabbos per se. So what exactly are you doing? What's the problem? What's the issue? What kind of kalim are we dealing with? So Rashi says, so Rashi learns that the kind of kalim we're talking about are kalim she'osim b'hem malacha. We're not talking about a garment or a pair of shoes or anything else that's kitchen things that you just plates and whatever. We're talking about kalim that you do with a malacha, a plow, for example. Why? Says Rashi, "Denira shemaskiro lo letzarach haShabbos." The words of Rashi can be looked at different ways. I think the Rishonim Achronim do look at it different ways. But Rashi says that looks like the problem is over here is that it's a mixi problem. So Rashi is saying that it's not an essential problem. It's not a problem in Ikar Din. Rashi is already being mocked in by saying Shinira, Denira, that it's a Maras Ayin issue over here. So it's a sugi of Maras Ayin. What is the Maras Ayin? Denira Shemaskira lo l'tzarach haShabbos. It looks like you're renting it for the sake of Shabbos. Now, Rashi is mashma from Rashi Shemaskira lo. We're talking about the kli, not the goy. It doesn't sound so much like we're talking about renting out the goy for Shabbos. We're renting out the kli for Shabbos. And it's a similar lesson in the Baal Amora as well. Baal Amora is in the standard Gemaras and Daf Zion and the Daf Rif. That the Baal Amora is going on the fact that the Rif leaves this halacha out completely, which we'll speak about soon, why that's so. And the Baal Amora wants to say that.
Rabbi, Gershon wants to be let in.
Okay. Take his in. Gershon, you in?
Yes, good morning. I'll turn on the video in a minute, but yes, I'm in.
Okay. All right, so the Baal Amor sounds similar to Rashi. The Baal Amor says that he's discussing the Shitas the Rif. The Rif actually leaves this halacha out completely. The Rif and the Rambam also, they paskin that this is not really a halacha. Why? Because they say that they want to say that this is only according to Beis Shammai, that's an Isser of Shvisas Kalim. That the issue over here is the Kli, that you're renting out the Kli for Shabbos, like Rashi says. But the Rif and the Rambam don't see any issue with that per se, It's not for any other reason except for, according to Beis Shammai, that holds that Shvisas Kalim is an Isser D'Oraisa, or there is an Isser Shvisas Kalim, period. We'll speak about exactly what the Isser is in the Rif. But Shvisas Kalim, just like we find an Isser of Shvisas Behemto, that everybody agrees that we have an Isser in the Torah that your animal can't work on Shabbos. So who adin, Beis Shammai holds Shvisas Kalim is a problem. Well, they did not feel Beis Hillel modaba. So he wants to say that even Beis Hillel is loaded to this. It's not true, not like the Rif. Shenira kemasne lasos malacha b'Shabbos. Sheken derech hasochim kli umnus lahashkim behem leumnasam. The Balmor says that the derech of those that are maskir kalim for umnus, people get up early in the morning to start working. So even though you rent it on Friday, this will explain Rashi, the Pashtus, that even though you rent it on Friday, but the people only start working on Shabbos. Because anyone who rents a Kli, the Ramban says this also in the Milchamas, in the Ran, when it quotes him, that certainly in those days, probably today also, if you rent a Kli for a certain number of days, so the day of the rental itself is not included in the days that you're going to work with it, that you're paying for. The day of rental, unless I guess you rent first thing in the morning and crack of dawn when you'll start working, but any time during the day you rent something like a plow, then the day you rent it obviously is not the day you're working with it, because that's not a full day. You're going to pay for a certain number of full days of rent, so you're mashkim in the morning. The actual work days begin the next day in the morning. So they're saying the reason it's nire or mixi, like you're renting this kli out to be used for Shabbos, because the first day of the work is going to start being on Shabbos morning, the next morning. And since you did it on Erev Shabbos right before, it's Samach L'Nira, it's right before the time of the work is going to start, and the work is going to start on Shabbos, then that's an issue of Shemaskir L'Tzorach Shabbos. So the obvious question on that's going to be, so what? What's the problem of being maskir Kli on Shabbos? The Ramban asked this on the Balmor. The Muhammad asked that the Balmor says this is the problem, but who the masne, I make a t'nai that my Kli is going to work on Shabbos. Who cares? We pass on Beis Hillel. If you're going in Beis Hillel, so Beis Hillel holds that there's no problem with filling up your mill with grain on Friday and turning it on that the river is going to start moving the paddle of the thing on Shabbos, on Friday, right before Shabbos, so it'll keep working on Shabbos. It'll keep going. So there's no issue with that, with your Kli working on Shabbos. If you don't like Beis Shammai, so what is the problem of the fact that you're masna on your Kli to work on Shabbos? Rashi sounds a little bit like that also. Shemaskiru lo l'tzarka Shabbos. It looks like you're maskir this Kli to be used for Shabbos. So what? What's the problem with that? Okay, so we'll leave that question right now in the Balmor and Rashi. We'll see Tosfos. So Tosfos comes, first of all, Lafuke, the Rif, he says, Lo Yaskir and the Farish Mishum Shvisas Kalim, Beis Shammai. Don't say like the Rif, that the reason over here is because of Shvisas Kalim. It is only going according to Beis Shammai. You can't feel the Ravi B'Chamishi Nami. If it was Shvisas Kalim, then also Wednesday and Thursday it's a problem. According to Beis Shammai, my kalim can't work even if I rent it out to a goy on Wednesday or Thursday. Bapashtis, if Shvisas kalim is just like Shvisas behemto, it's an Isser D'Oraisa. So if I rent my animal out to a goy on Tuesday or Wednesday for him to work with it on Shabbos, even though Shabbos it's one of a number of days that I'm giving it to him, if it's an Isser D'Oraisa, then it makes no difference that I gave it to him on Wednesday or Thursday. That's not the issue. It's not a nichsi problem. It's an essential problem. It's a actual isser of my behemoth working on Shabbos. So if you want to say Beis Shammai, then the same thing should apply to them for kalim. So why is there a heter in the brisa of renting out the kalim on Wednesday and Thursday? Now the answer to the Rif that some Rishonim were ramadas to is, or maybe I saw it in Achronim, I'm not sure remember where I saw it, that the Rif and the Rambam hold that, and this would be a machlokas then Tosus and the Rif, and aside another machlokas, but that they hold that when is there an Isser deraisa of Shvisas Kalim according to Beis Shammai, that's only if the Kalim are doing the Melechas Yisrael. But if they're doing Melechas Akum, if the Kalim are only being used to do Melechas Akum, it's only for the sake of the Goy, so then that Isser Shvisas Kalim is only Midrabanan according to Beis Shammai. So we're not going into the whole sugi of Shvisas Kalim right now, but there is such a tzad that it's only Drabanan in certain cases. So since it's only Drabanan, so then the Rif and the Rambam hold that Pshat and Beis Shammai, and this price would be that there were only gozer this Isser Drabanan of Shvisas Kalim for the sake of a Goy when it's done some of the Shabbos, when it's near the time of Shabbos, that it's clear that it's going to be for Shabbos. Only then where they goes with that. So you can say that within Gezeras, but Tosus wasn't nicha to that. Tosus obviously holds that the Isser of Shvisas Kalim is, according to Beis Shammai, is deraisa at all times, and therefore it shouldn't make a difference to Isser Revi Chamishi. So Tosus doesn't accept that, so he goes on to another shot. But just to keep in mind that according to the first shot, the only Kalim that we can be talking about are Kalim Sh'osim B'Hamalacha, like Rashi said. Right, Rashi pointed out, Lasas B'Hamalacha B'Erev Shabbos. So the only issue in Beis Shammai, the Shvisas Kalim, is going to be those Kalim that do Malacha that have to be Shabbos. We're talking about a coat or a dress, so there's no sort of Shvisas Kalim, it doesn't apply, the whole thing doesn't apply. So according to the first shot in Tosus, it has to be talking about Kalim Sh'osim Malacha. But so Tosus is choser from that and says, no. Ela ka Beis Hillel. Really, it's going like Beis Hillel. The leis lahu Shvisas Kalim. That they don't hold a Shvisas Kalim. Or b'chaluk v'talis akiyotza ben Ari. It's even talking about a chaluk or a talis. It's talking about a garment. Even that you can't rent rent it out for Shabbos, on Erev Shabbos. Lo shayach Shvisas Kalim. And still, also, the Shanire Ganoitel Skar Shabbos. Based on, there's a lashon of Gemara and Ksuvas and Daf Samach Daled Amud Aleph that there the Gemara says a lashon of Michzik Skar Shabbos. We see there's such a thing as Michzik. It looks like Skar Shabbos. It's a little bit of an issue, like Rashi over there in Ksuvas says that Michzik Skar Shabbos, that the problem with Skar Shabbos is that it'll if you can get Schar Shabbos, you'll come to do business on Shabbos. You'll come to do Prakmatia, Masa Matan on Shabbos. You can get Schar Shabbos. And why is there a problem with Prakmatia of Masa Matan of doing business on Shabbos? You might come to write, because it's common to write when you do business, to write down the transaction. So it sounds a little bit like a Gzera L'Gzera. It looks like a Gzera L'Gzera. So it's a chiddush that there's such a level of michzik Schar Shabbos. This is saying over here, Nira can notel Schar Shabbos, even though you're really not notel Schar Shabbos. Ava pi shemaskiro yachad chodesh hashavua. Tos says it has to be that you rented it, not in a way that it has really has an issue Schar Shabbos, because you rented it for a week or for a month, and in maskiro. In other words, like the Rishonim say that if you do it for a week or a month in Shabbos, as far as the Schar Shabbos is concerned, it's considered ba'avlo. Literally means swallowed up. It's swallowed into the rest of the week. So it's not nicker, it's Schar Shabbos, and Chazal didn't aser Schar Shabbos when it's ba'avlo. So we have to be talking about that, because if it wasn't, says Tosus, the maskira liyom afilu b'ravi b'chamishi aser. If you do it by the day, then it wouldn't matter that you did it on Wednesday or Thursday. It wouldn't even help to do it because you are paying day by day, so you would be still actually getting a Schar Shabbos. It wouldn't be near a Schar Shabbos. It would actually be Schar Shabbos, and that's an Isser B'Fnatzmon because of Xeros Prachmatia. I guess part and parcel. That's what you have to say. Part and parcel when they were goes there not to have business on Shabbos, was also not to get Schar Shabbos. It's all part of the same Xera. In order not for it shouldn't be considered Xera l'Xera. So that's only going to be if it's for day by day, then it is Schar Shabbos. It doesn't matter when you initiate the deal. If sof kol sof, you are cheshboning each day separately on its own right. So it must be any way that we're talking over here. If it's only a mixi problem, it's only a Maris iron problem, that you we do away with the essential problem of Schar Shabbos by it being rented out for a week or a month. So it's bavla. And even so, it's still asar on Friday. So it comes out over here a chiddush that it's on Friday. You're maskir to him for a week or a month, whatever. Let's say a month, make it easier. On Friday, and so Betzim it's not for Shabbos at all, and it's not a kli that you do malacha with because that's not the issue. The issue is just getting the Schar Shabbos. So you're not really getting Schar Shabbos, but Tosfos Machadish that would be considered on Friday mixik as Schar Shabbos. When it's Wednesday and Thursday, and you're doing it for a month, then obviously it's not Schar Shabbos. It's Havla. But when it's Friday, then it does look like Schar Shabbos. Why? Like l'chora, why should that be? So the Ramban and the Ran say a lashon going in the Mahalach of Tosfos, the Ramban in Melchamas Hashem and the Ran on the Rif. So the lashon they use, find the Ramban here. Here, he says after he's finished being cholak on the Balamor, he says, "Aval be'erev Shabbos lamachar hu mashkin." He says, "Betzem, there's not here." Here, I'll start back a line back. The third from the bottom line in the Melchamas. He says, "Aval hacha b'maskir kelim al chodesh Shabbos shavua." We're talking over here. There's a problem with Schar Shabbos, mixik of Schar Shabbos, and your maskir for a month or a week. Therefore, b'revi v'chemishi mutter davlohi v'shari. If it's on Wednesday or Thursday, it's okay. It's havla. You're doing it for a month, and then Shabbos is havla. It's not a problem. It's Schar Shabbos. Ava be'erev Shabbos lemachahu mashkin bo lemalachto v'kevin a maskil minei uboyin lebeis hacheshbon mimenu aser. Ramban says words that are seem to be strange words. But the way I understand them is that if you write down an Erev Shabbos, and then it says tomorrow the guy's going to get up and start the work. In mashkim b'malachto, you're going to start working early Shabbos morning. The goy. You rented him a plow on Friday, and now he gets up early on Shabbos morning to start working. Since you begin from there. And you come to the Beis HaCheshbon from it, Aser. So I think what he means, the Ran quotes this, doesn't say it in the name of the Ramban, but he's quoting the same words coming from the Ramban. I think what they mean is that when, like we said before, when you rent it out on Friday, like a plow, then that's not one of the days you're going to start working. If you're going to say it's going to be for a week, so what day are you going to start calculating the days of work? Not from the day that he rents it, from the day he starts working with it, which is the next morning. In other words, from the first day that he has a full day's work. So since he's going to get up on Shabbos and start working on Shabbos, and the cheshbon of the days that you pay, whether it's a month or a week, no matter what, but it's the cheshbon begins on Shabbos. Mimenu yotza the Beis HaCheshbon. From that day you go to the Beis HaCheshbon, meaning that I think the Ramban means that the cheshbon of the month or week begins from that point on, and so you rented it the day before, and then he starts right away doing it. So then it looks like that's you need that combination of the Erev Shabbos and that he starts working on Shabbos to be mixzi ke notos Schar Shabbos. That even though Ikar did, it's not because it's b'havla, but it looks like it is, and that'll be shot in Tosfos as well. So Tosfos brings a raya from the Gemara Bava Metzia and Azav that by Schar Polim, Lishmor Paro Tinok, over there the Gemara says that if you pay by the day, then even though it's for a month or whatever, but if you're paying by the day, then it's considered Schar Shabbos.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
So is Pshat in this Ramban that you need both? You need Erev Shabbos and the next day Cheshbon being the first day? Or right. Maybe what if the Metzius would be that there was always a 2-day break? So let's say you'd rent it on Thursday. The Metzius is you don't start working till 2 days later, Shabbos. So according to this, maybe would it still not work because you're missing
this whole thing is a chiddush. It's a big chiddush, and we're only going to say it in l'chapa l'chadusho. So we're only going to say it if it was done on Erev Shabbos. So you have it has to look like you somehow cheshbon Shabbos right away. But if you did a havla, it doesn't matter what day it is or how many days until they can start working. But you don't have the Erev Shabbos element. We wouldn't answer it. Okay, and then Tosfos ends off with an important nakuda, which he says, "V'dafka l'socho demikse kenotel schar Shabbos al l'shayla l'sharya." It'll come out according to this that the only problem will be schiras when you are actually notel schar Shabbos. If you would just lend it to him, that wouldn't be an issue. So it could be that Tosfos is learning that according to the first shot, it is coming lafuke with the riff. So if it's schiras, if it's a problem of shvisas kalim, and that obviously doesn't matter if you rent it or if you lend it to him. It'll be the same problem. So now that he's saying this shot, Tosfos says there's enough kamina that it's only going to be for your notel schar, but not if you give it if you just lend it to him. Then this whole issue doesn't begin of schar Shabbos, obviously. Now, so far we have two mahalchim in the sugya. We have the Rif and the Rambam in the sugya, which the whole sugya is Beis Shammai, and it's not really l'halacha l'maisa. And then we have the Tosfos so far, which is we're talking about kalim, even kalim that don't do malacha, and the problem is schar Shabbos. But Rashi seems to be something in between, though. Rashi and also the Balmor say clearly we're talking about kalim that we do malacha with them. But Rashi does not say it's Beis Shammai. And if it's an issue of your kalim working, that's like the Ramban asked on the Balmor. What's the issue with that? Like you're allowed to have your mill be set up to start going on Shabbos for Erev Shabbos. If you the river is turning the wheels and everything, no issue. So what's the issue over here of renting out your kalim to them on Shabbos that they do malacha? So I think the pshat in Rashi is we have a third pshat over here, which is the Rush and the name of the Rebbeinu Yonah. It's the Rush in Perak Aleph, Siman Lamed Vav, that after he brings Tosfos and the Ri and everything, and he says, Rebbeinu Yonah's al Pirish, the Ira Bekalim She'eno Samar Malacha, Lo Mistaber Lo Mesar Benachri Tveim Yisrael. He said, the rest said before, according to the Ri, according to Tosfos, there's going to be only an Isser to a Goy, not to a Yisrael. And there's Rayas from the Sugya, and he has a problem with that. What's the difference? What should be the difference mitzad schar Shabbos if you're renting it out to him, if you're getting a schar for the fact that he has it on Shabbos? My shayach maras ayim benachri tveim Yisrael. We're not going to go into that point, but just the main vort of the Rebbeinu Yonah is he says the Meir became in the osem malacha. We're talking about a mill or a plow. A shark clay umnus. And why is there a problem? The fact that I rented to it on Friday and he starts working with it on Shabbos right away, then it looks like shlucho shal Yisrael. Even though Beis Hillel was matir to give, I can give my leather to be worked to, let's say, take a piece of leather to turn it into a baseball mitt. I can give it to him right before Shabbos, and he can work on that. I'm going to pay him for the baseball mitt, for the work he did. He says over there, the nafshei kavid, given the katzatz l'damim. So shiny hasam shein revach liyisrael b'masha nachri osa b'Shabbos. Over there, we're talking about katzatz. So it's like tantamount to, let's say, today's obvious case is you bring your suit to the cleaners Erev Shabbos to be cleaned. As long as you didn't specify you're going to pick it up right away Motzei Shabbos, it's katzatz. There's a certain, you look on the wall, it tells you how much the suit is. Right? There's a certain set price. You're not paying for the hours or anything like that. You're just paying for the job. If they don't do the job well, you give it back to them. You have to redo it, or they don't pay them. you're not paying for the hour, you're paying by the job. So the katzatz turns it into a kabbalan, which we say a daita and nafshei avid, that he's doing it for himself, and it's not mixi anymore. Keshlucho shal Yisrael. Mashakin over here, b'schiras kalim yaduahu afilu ba'avlo im yaskirim lachutz mishabasas leyitzal lo schiras yokal kemishas revach leYisrael mashakelim niskarim etzal nachri mixi malacha shanachri osa behem b'Shabbos shulcho shal Yisrael. Since over here, even if you rent it b'havlo, which has to be b'havlo, otherwise you have a problem with Schar Shabbos. So Ben Yonah agrees to Tosfos that you're renting it out b'havlo for a month or for a week. Even so, says the Ben Yonah. By the way, the rest just says Reish Yud, but that's after he brought the reed that he brings the second one is not the reed, it's Ben Yonah. that even though you're renting it out b'havlo for a month, let's say, but everyone knows that if I rent it for a month, but I don't allow you to use it for the weekends or for Saturdays, I'm not going to get the same amount. I'm not going to get paid as much. You're going to detract that from the monthly payment. It's not a month. It's not 30 days. It's 26 days that I'm going to be able to use it. So he's not going to pay me as much. So since I want him to pay me the full month, so I'm nene from the fact that he's working on Shabbos, that he's going to be able to use it on Shabbos. That makes it like he's mixing shluchai, like my shliach to do the work on Shabbos. Now the obvious kasha on this, obvious problem is that we have over here, the money is being transferred the wrong direction to look like a shliach. I'm not paying him, he's paying me. Number one, he's paying me to rent my object. And number two, he's paying me to rent my object to do his work, not my work. Well, why would, if he goes and plows his field with my plow, how does it look like he's doing my work? What do I have to do with his field? Chor Ben Yonah is a shtickle pellet. But I think what he's being Ramaz in his lashon to say, you select this from other poskim as well, is that the pshat is the following, that here's what we came out with in the base medrash by Asel Kol, that since I am nene for the fact that he is working, because I'm getting more money for that fact, so I want him to work. That work turns out to be for my benefit as well. Because if he can't work on Shabbos, then I get less money. So B'etzem, I want him to work on the Shabbos. It's my benefit that he works on the Shabbos because I end up getting more schar. So since it's my benefit and I want him to do it, and I'm netted from that fact that he's doing it, like the lashon of Ben Yonah, so then Mamela, it's like that turns it into mifsek shlucho, because all that he's doing is all with my blessing and my desire and my ratzon to do it. So mifsek shlucho. I think does that make sense? I'll tell you also the lashon Ravid sort of fits into that. The Ravid says going on the Rambam in Perek Vav Hilchos Shabbos Halacha Tes Zayin. So he goes like the Rif. He says muter lahashel kelim lahaskirin legoy al pi she'osa behem malacha b'Shabbos mishe'en ana mitzuvah mashvisas kelim. He clearly says that the problem is only in the brayso of shvisas kelim. Since we pass on place Hillel, we're not mitzvah shvisas kelim. There's no problem, no issue. Al behemto va'avdo aser because we're mitzvah on shvisas beima v'eved. That's the Rambam. The Ravid says there, Amar Avram, lo akol moedim loy b'schiras hool ve'nene. Since you're nene from it, ki'ilu osa malacha liYisrael. It's as if he does a malacha for Yisrael, and therefore. Therefore, the whole day of Friday is usher to render to him because it'll go into Shabbos, meaning he'll start working on Shabbos, and it'll be mixi k'shlucha to do because whole nene kilo osam malacha l'Yisrael. So that falls right into their Ben Yonah. That the hana that I'm getting from it makes it look like mixi k'shlucha. And that betzim will be shot also in Rashi, in the Baal Mor, that we're talking about Kalim Osem Malacha, and Rashi's lashon was, as we saw. Rashi said, "Lo yasker adam Kalim lasus behem malacha be'erev Shabbos, the nirish maskir lo l'tzarach haShabbos." And therefore, what? Who cares about the Kalim? No, it's not the Kalim. Since, like we're saying, I'm menen from it, and therefore it's like as if I'm making him my shliach to do that malacha. And I saw afterwards in the Beis Yosef that Itaka learns the Ravid and the Rashi like Rabbeinu Yonah. So it comes out then, Sikum Dvarim, that we have three major shitas over here in the Sugya. So two lines of Gemara, we have three major shitas. First of all, we have the Rif and we'll go the other way around. We have Rashi, the Ravid, the Rabbeinu Yonah, the Balamor, the Pashtus are all learning that the issue over here is Michsei Kashlucho. And we're saying because you're nana from the fact that he's renting it on Shabbos, even though it's B'Havlah, so Schar Shabbos is not a problem because you did it B'Havlah. So it's not an issue of Schar Shabbos. And we don't, and Michsei Schar Shabbos is shver, it's a difficult slora. Therefore, but the fact that you're nana and you want it done, then it's as if he's doing it for you. It looks like he's doing it for you on Shabbos. But Sirith, the fact that it was done on Erev Shabbos, but then he started working on Shabbos. The whole malacha begins to be worked. The whole malacha starts on Shabbos. So then you look like he's your shliach to work on Shabbos. That's one mahalach. Then we have Tosfos, the Ramban, and the Ran. That we're not talking about Kalish Osam Malacha. We're talking even Kalish Ein Osam Malacha. Because Tosfos could have that difficulty with Rabbeinu Yonah and Rashi and everything. It says, what do you mean? Look, he looks like my shliach. How does he look like my shliach? He's not doing my work. He's working in his own field. He's doing his own thing, and he's paying me. I'm not paying him. What kind of nira kaskar Shabbos over here? Yeah, of course he's nana from the fact that they have it, but that's Bavla. So there doesn't look at all like he's, according to Tosfos, like he's my shliach to do malacha. So Meli has to come on to say, it's a different problem. That since you start working on Shabbos and the cheshbon of the payment begins from that day, so then, and you lent it right before Shabbos, and the cheshbon starts on Shabbos, then it's michsei kaschar Shabbos. So each side has, that's the other overall mahalach over here in the Rishonim, that'll be Tosfos, Ramban, and the Ran. And so they have a problem with michsei kaschar, michsei shlucho, because it doesn't look like a shliach the other way. And the Tosfos and the Rabbeinu Yonah and all the others have a problem with Tosfos, that why should it look like, it's not Schar Shabbos, why should it look like Schar Shabbos? It's you made a clear cheshbon from Friday and you did it b'havlah. It doesn't look like Schar Shabbos. So therefore you have two different mahalchim, it's michsei kashlucha or michsei kaschar Shabbos. The Rif and the Rambam hold they're both shver. Both of those ideas are very shver. Tzaka doesn't look like a shliach, because of all the reasons we said, and it doesn't look like Schar Shabbos either, because it's Bavla, and you did it on Friday. So Mechatesi, it looks like Schar Shabbos. So therefore, the Rif and the Rambam learned that the only way you could explain this is according to Beis Shammai, Shvisus Kalim. It's a whole different problem, and therefore it's not La Halacha because we don't hold of it. We don't hold like Beis Shammai. So those are the three overall mahalchim in the sugya. So now we take a look at the. If you go to the Beis Yosef, I'm sure you did, it's very geschmack, the summary of all this. And then we open up the Shulchan Aruch, we see that the Shulchan Aruch taka passes like the Rif and the Rambam. Since the Rif and the Rambam both agree to the same shot in the Sugya, and it's the Shalad or Rabbanan, then of course we should go with the Rif and the Rambam. So the Shulchan Aruch therefore paskins with the Lashon Rambam in the beginning of Reish Mem Vav, Mutter lahashil haskir kelav l'eni Yehudi, so he quotes the Lashon Rambam, the paskins like that it's really not usher, it's really an usher. But then he brings the Yesh Omrim the Kalim Shosem Malacha going Machrisha Kiyotzeva Usher Lasker and then Yehudi Ber Shabbos Yom Chamishi Mutter Lahaskelo. as long as it's, according to everybody, as long as it's b'havla. So the Yesh Omrim is the Rebbeinu Yonah, that if it's Kelim She'oseh Malacha, like a plow, etc., then it's Asar on Erev Shabbos. So it's interesting that we had in our summary 3 shitas, but the Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring 3 shitas, it only brings 2 shitas. Either the Rif and the Rambam, which yields, that's the Iker Din, because the cloud in the Shulchan Aruch is if you quote something stam and then Yesh Omrim, he's really paskin like the first shita, but he's just letting you know there's another shita out there. But the Yesh Omrim, the second shita, is Rebbeinu Yonah. So the Shulchan Aruch doesn't even quote, doesn't mention shitas Tosas, that there's an issue of Kelim She'enos Malacha. Right, the Yesh Omrim is only if you're going to be paskin at all, it's Beis Hillel, it's halacha, it's only going to be Kelim She'osim Malacha. So the cheshbon over here is, what I was going to say is that if he's going to mention it all, even as Yesh Omrim, and it's a shalom and drabanan, then there are plenty of Rishonim to be samachan that the Isser is only going to be by Kelim She'osim Malacha. He didn't see fit, he has to mention the most machmir shita, which would be Tosas, that it applies even Kelim She'enos Malacha. So he only mentioned the second shita. And the Ramah says the halacha v'chen ikar kasvara achorina. That the halacha is like the second shita, not like the Shulchan Aruch that it's mutter completely, but like the Rebbeinu Yonah, which we say is Rebbeinu Yonah, Rashi, the Balamor, the Ravid, are all holding that it is aser, but it's only when it's kelim that do malacha because it looks like you're shliach that to do malacha on Shabbos. And that's the halacha. And again, of course, it's only only going to be mutter if it's let's say kelim she'enos malacha, or if it's Thursday or Friday, it's only b'havla, like we said. If it's going to be day by day, that's going to be aser. Then we'll go back to Tos's problem of Schar Shabbos, because it really will be Schar Shabbos, not mixing Schar Shabbos, so it'll really be Schar Shabbos. Okay. So that's the overall surah of the sugya. And now we'll just throw out a shaila al halacha. Well, two shailas al halacha really. That just to sort of take it through the crucible of what we just learned. That a Jew owns a common thing. A Jew owns a car rental. He owns a branch of whatever, a car rental. And so now, is he allowed to rent a car out to a goy on Friday? So what do you say?
According to all the shitas in the middle, that the Ramah is coming out like Rabbeinu Yonah, is there any benefit in the fact that the goy is doing malach on Shabbos? The idea we said by michzi, michzi would only come up if there's malach being done out like with the other days, like Rabbi Svar by the koil was that you actually had to have like hana from that day, like you want him to work on that day. But if the car's sitting in a parking lot for an extra day or 2 or 3, that's better for a person who owns the car rental place, right?
No, that's the benefit. Wasn't that the benefit was that I'm getting to pay for that day, that he could use it.
Right. So
what he does at the end, whether he uses it or not, is irrelevant. Since I rented to him in a day that normally he would work with it, so then that's what. And if he does work with it, or let's say if this guy does drive, so then it's michzik shlucho.
What I'm saying is michzik shlucho only came up because the Jew wanted him to be using it for another day. No,
he doesn't want him to necessarily use it. He wants him to be able to use it. So then, if he does use it, whether he's going to do it or not, I don't really know. But since he
what you meant by this bar was you want him to keep it for another day. You want him to want it for another day.
Yeah, and I'm benefiting from that because I'm getting more money for the rental. If I tell him the rental kicks in as of Sunday, I get
right.
less money.
Got it. So that was the svara. And then when rental places sell, they do it. It's not Pavla, right? They do daily charges, right?
But you can do a week. We're talking over here. You do it for a week. But so we'll make it show. We'll make all apples to apples. We'll make it that you're renting it for a week or for a month. You can do a month rental also.
Right, but aren't the payments broken down by the day?
No, they actually have different prices. If you rent it by the day, it'll be X per day. But if you do it by the week, then it goes down. You're not paying by the day, you're paying by the week. That's generally how it works in the car rental. So but if I rent it for a week minus a day, the guy's not going to pay me for a whole week.
Right.
You know? They'll do a week's charge minus a seventh of that.
Right.
Rebbe, the way Rebbe set it up in the Shiur, if you count up all of the Rishonim, the ones on the side that it should be a problem are much more. Because all you have is the Rambam and the Rif who seem to be matir it, but you have all the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Rishonim.
That's what the post can ask on the Shulchan Aruch. That how did he go ahead and decide like the Rambam and the Rif? So it has to do with Klali of Shulchan Aruch. You know that by him the Rif and the Rambam are like the main post game, and if they both agree on something and it's a shalom rabbanan, so then he won't see the have to be machmir.
So how do we pass?
Go with them, but the Maisa, I'm going to the halacha with the Ramah. Okay, I'm not sure what it'd be for Sfardim, but I didn't look and see how the Sfardi post can if they pass like the Shulchan Aruch. But we go with the Ramah, and the Yashomrim we go with the Ben Yonah, which you're right. According to the way we're learning, it's most poskim like that. So with the Ramah, I'm asking if you own a car rental, or if one of your Talmidim comes and asks you, I have a car rental place, and you just taught us about the sugya, so can I rent out a car to go on Friday?
So, I mean, the pashtus, it sounds like it would only be mutter b'avla, right?
Well, we're starting off the avla to begin with. The whole sugya has to be b'avla. Otherwise, it's problems for Shabbos anyway. And even so, it's usher because it's michsek shlucho to do malacha.
Right. Sorry, it's michsek shlucho even b'avla. Right. So, I mean,
there's got to be a way out. Come on.
Lichar make her din it's usher, right? At least make her din it's usher, right?
or as some have said, if there's a rabbinical will, there will be a rabbinical way. Okay, it doesn't exactly work that way, but happens to be over here. So it's brought down. There's a sefer called Commerce on Shabbos. Very chashuv sefer on these inyanim. This is from the son-in-law of Shlomo Miller from Toronto, one of the premier poskim in America today. So he says a gavaldik chap from his father-in-law, Shlomo Miller, that this whole Isser that we see from the Rishonim over here, all is because you're renting on Friday, and then the Malacha begins on Shabbos. Lu Yisur, the Malacha would actually begin on Friday. There wouldn't be an Isser, because then you're not mixing Shluch on Shabbos anymore. You already began on Friday. You rented it for Havla, and he started the Malacha on Friday. That takes away the whole mixing Shluch. So he says that the minute you drive the car off the lot on Friday, then you began to drive the car. So you can't say anymore that
Friday is not shaykh for anything where the malacha starts.
Buy a plow. When the guy takes the plow and starts, he's not going to start. He comes Friday afternoon, rents a plow, and he's only going to pay for the week starting tomorrow because he wants a full day. No farmer, no self-respecting farmer will go and plow for an hour, right? You put in a good day's work, so it's going to start tomorrow morning on Shabbos. So since the whole malacha begins tomorrow, then it's Nitzig Shlucho. But Lu Yitzur, he would rent him a plow on Friday, and he would start plowing on Friday. There would be no problem. So this would be the case. The case would be the car rental, where that's what's a car for? It's to drive. The minute he starts driving, he's driving. So then it takes Nitzig Shlucho.
Wow, that's brilliant. That's amazing.
So now there would be enough kamina. Let's say if you have a tractor rental place. So
but you still have to drive the tractor off the lot.
Pardon?
You still have to drive the tractor off the lot.
Yeah, but that's not the work of the tractor. The tractor, that's only a attempt to get to the malacha. The malacha is not really the driving of it, it's the plowing with it. So Nachanami, that could be an issue. I was clearing about if you have based on what they're saying, So you could clear about a U-Haul rental. So you come and rent a U-Haul truck. So it's, again, you can say the same time over there that, how's it mixing my malacha if he's going to go using the truck to move his stuff from his apartment to his other apartment. But still, since I'm nene from the fact that he's socher and everything, so then that could be the same issue. And if the malacha is only going to begin on Shabbos, you can say mixik or shlucho to start doing that because I'm nene from taking on Shabbos. So for that, it might depend when you take it because I don't think there's a thing of a U-Haul like there's a tractor that you're only going to start, bright and early in the morning to start plowing. But people that want to pack their apartments, they can pack at any time. They can pack the minute they take the thing, they can start packing. So I think that it's only there only goes there this gzeira if it's a type of malacha that's for sure not going to start when you give it to him. Because if it could, and some do, then you're not responsible whether he starts it or not. If that's normally what's done. So I think that takes away the mixik of shlucha. Mixik of shlucha would only be if the Rishonim all say that the malacha only is going to be, no matter like Tosis or like the Ben Yonah, they all say the malacha is going to start tomorrow morning, on Shabbos morning. But if it's the type of thing that the minute the guy takes the U-Haul, he can go and pick up a few things in the store that he wants to on the way out, and he could pick up he could start his thing, even though the ikar malacha is not to drive it, it's to pack it and to haul. That's why it's not called you drive, it's called you haul. So it's even though they do drive because you can't haul without driving, but
right.
But the ikar malacha is the packing and the hauling. But that theoretically could start on Friday too, because people do it all the time. So I think that would not be a problem because there's no mixing. Where I think.
Is there anything to be said about the fact that the reality is today that there's no such thing as there's almost no such thing as renting today where it starts tomorrow, not just from a tzad malacha issue, just from a tzad like that. The entire surah of this whole sugya was based on the idea that the tomorrow is going to be the first day of the rental, like meaning.
Yeah, but only according to the Tosafos, the problem is Schar Shabbos.
Right, that's where it was brought up, right, by Schar Shabbos.
But the Ben Yonah, in Ben Yonah's world, doesn't matter when the payment starts. It matters that the work starts tomorrow.
But it's still based on Schar Shabbos. It's Schar Shabbos with the blend
It's not because of Schar Shabbos. It's mixed in Kashluko. It's just that I'm nene from the fact that he's paying for it tomorrow.
Right.
But it's not about the payment starting tomorrow. Even if the payment will start today, it's really about law. But as long as the work starts tomorrow, that's
right.
enough.
Rebbe.
Yeah.
I know it's pretty common. They have for photographers or videos or these photo booths, people have real businesses like that. So if a guy would approach you, the Jewish owner of this type of business on Friday, for an event that's happening on Shabbos. So it's not like the car where they're using it right away. They're using it for the event for the very first time on Saturday. So that seemingly probably would be an issue, no?
That would be an issue as Schar Shabbos unless you have some way of doing a bavla, like some of the work is being done. That really takes me to the next point that Mishnah Berurah says in Sifkat and Gimel that it has to be bavla. He says, Aval litol Schar Shabbos lachud. Got the Mishnah Berurah Gimel. He says, take Schar Shabbos alone, but cliche, a few of the cliche enos in Bamalacha. That's still Osha Maskelo Cheder Loderbo. Also the Kuliyamak, which is Barlik Nashim Vav Sindal. So this is tantamount to renting a room that's going to be just for Shabbos, or just part of Shabbos. Then he says that's for sure is a problem. Rosh Shlomo Zalman has a question. I mean, this is a common question if you go to a hotel and you just take a room for Shabbos. So Rosh Shlomo Zalman in Shmir Shabbos wants to say a svara that if I rent it before Shabbos, then I'm already sort of taking ownership in a way over it, and so it comes out that because the skiris the Yom Kanya, and I'm taking when they're taking ownership, I'm using my own thing, not someone else's thing. So that shouldn't be an issue, the svara. Because it's only if he uses the Jews thing, but if he rents like a room, it becomes like Skiros Kanya. This is, however, you see not like that in our sugya. So yes, because in our sugya, that's Gufa what's going on. The goy rents the object before Shabbos, and the Chorez becomes, the rental makes it like his, and still we have an Isser over here of Schar Shabbos. So he ends off Tzorach Iyun. So the only way that it's going to be mutter is going to be about in some way havla. So that's what he brings in Shmir Shabbos. That when you rent the room, you have to take possession of the room a little before Shabbos. I mean, nobody usually ever comes in just on Shabbos. You come in before, you put your stuff down. You know, when it's check-in. Check-in's at 4 o'clock, so it's an hour before Shabbos. That's enough to make it bavla. So you have to find some way also with it's the same thing also when you hire a cleaning lady or something. So you pay her, she's going to come and do the dishes and clean up for the Shabbos meal and everything. It's only okay if you pay her also for some work she does during the week, either after or before Shabbos. And you pay her for it all together. You have to affect the situation of Havlah to make it mutter, otherwise it's Schar Shabbos. Okay. On that note,
It's good seeing you, Rabbi. It's really nice to have Shiur again.
All the best.
All the best.